Hello everyone. Stretching from the Ural Mountains all the way to the Pacific Ocean, Siberia makes up over 3/4 of Russia's territory. This is a vast, resource-rich land, yet nearly devoid of human presence. Why is this the case? Has the Russian Federation truly neglected this strategic region, or is there a deeper underlying reason? Video. Throughout history, from the Tsarist era to the Soviet Union and modern-day Russia, Russian governments have clearly recognized the strategic importance of Siberia. But in reality, the place remains untouched wilderness, vast stretches of water coconut forests, flooded marshes, frigid plains, and endless ranges of desolate mountains. To fully understand the deep-rooted causes of this situation, we need to re-examine the formation, development, and management of this region throughout each historical period. The true exploration of Siberia began in the 16th century, as the growing power of Tsar Ivan IV gradually weakened the Siberian Khanate. Initially, groups of merchants and Cossacks began arriving in this region. Later, the Russian army was ordered to construct a series of fortresses, gradually expanding eastward. The original purpose was not to expand settlement, but primarily to collect tribute from the indigenous tribes, especially rare and precious bird feathers. From then on, the tribes were forced to pay taxes in the form of animal furs in exchange for axes, saws, needles, thread, and fabrics. But due to excessive exploitation by the officials, the local people revolted and attacked the fortresses. By the mid-17th century, Russia had expanded its territory and established control over lands stretching all the way to the Pacific Ocean. However, the majority of those who came here were prisoners, exiles, and persecuted religious groups. In 1709, Siberia had only about 230,000 Russian inhabitants. During the era of the Russian Empire and later the Soviet Union, the authorities continued to use this region as a place of exile, to isolate political prisoners and exploit resources to serve the central government. An estimated 800,000 people were exiled to this region in the 19th century. The first step was the creation of the Trans-Siberian Railway, constructed from 1891 to 1916. This passage helps to more tightly integrate the Siberian region with the rest of the Russian Empire. Currently, the industrialization process is progressing at a rapid pace. Approximately 7 million Russians migrated from Europe to the vast eastern territories between 1801 and 1914. During the Soviet era, particularly under Stalin, this place became the center of the forced labor system. From 1929 to 1953, over 14 million people were sent to prisons and labor camps in this region. Industrial facilities such as mines or metallurgical plants are often built without the goal of sustainable economic development in mind. Due to its military strategic significance and the Soviet state's ability to control its people, cities like Norilsk or Magadan are not famous for their prosperity, but rather because they embody oppression and tragic loss. After World War II, the Soviet Union accelerated economic development in Siberia, focusing primarily on heavy industry and mineral extraction. However, the centralized development model has made localities increasingly dependent on the central government. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the economic system supporting Siberia collapsed along with it. Many factories had to shut down, transportation routes were disrupted, and workers' wages were cut. A strong wave of reverse migration back to Western Russia is underway. In the post-Soviet era, although the Russian federal government has repeatedly announced plans to redevelop Siberia and the Far East, these efforts are often merely symbolic or not truly effective. Part of the reason is the excessively high investment costs and harsh natural conditions. The local population is too small to support a domestic market. Additionally, the policy of centralizing power in Moscow makes it difficult for remote regions like this one to achieve autonomy in governance and attract investment. Young people are increasingly leaving their hometowns for big cities like Moscow or St. Petersburg in search of new opportunities. Creates a continuous population decline spiral and leads to local economic downturn. Another important factor to consider is the Russian central government's perspective on geopolitics and economics. The approach still leans heavily toward exploitation rather than sustainable development. Therefore, Siberia is still regarded as a resource-rich region serving the national economy, rather than being a land with its own potential in terms of people, culture, and society that needs to be nurtured and developed. In short, Russia's abandonment of Siberia was not caused by any single isolated decision. That is the result of a series of historically exploitative, oppressive, and authoritarian policies. Nature is vast yet harsh. Siberia is a vast region, covering an area of 13.1 million square kilometers, which accounts for 76.6% of Russia's territory. The fox ranges from the wild Ural region in the west all the way to the Pacific Ocean in the east. It can be divided into three main areas, including the Ural Federal District, the Siberian Federal District, and the Far Eastern Federal District. In terms of terrain, Siberia is highly diverse yet retains its pristine and largely untouched character by human influence. Most of the area here consists of melaleuca forests, swamps, and wild grasslands. And notably, it is covered by a layer of permafrost, a type of ground that remains permanently frozen deep beneath the surface. When heated or subjected to strong impact, this layer of soil will melt unevenly. This can cause subsidence, damage the foundation, and seriously affect the structural stability of buildings. For infrastructure projects such as railways, roads, bridges, or airports, construction on this soil foundation requires specialized techniques and costs many times higher than in regular areas. From this, it's understandable why the transportation system in Siberia is so sparse and poorly connected. When there were only a few railway lines and major highways, here, there are three major rivers: the Ob, the Yenisei, and the Lena. The rivers all flow from the south to the north and then empty into the sea in the northern region. These rivers are of considerable length and have very high hydropower potential. But most of it is not suitable for transportation and trade because it freezes in winter, and not directly connected to densely populated areas. The climate of Siberia is extremely harsh, unsuitable for long-term living, especially given the vast scale of the community. The entire area falls within the continental subarctic climate zone, with long, cold winters and warm, pleasant yet short summers. The average annual temperature is around 5 degrees Celsius, which is fairly mild. In January, the average temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm. Winter here is not only cold but also dry and lacking sunlight, seriously harm human health and quality of life. Though summer is short, the temperature often fluctuates noticeably. Flash floods or landslides may occur due to melting ice. Among them, the towns of Vekogen and Oymyakon in the Sakha Republic, Yakutia, stand out for their extreme climate. These are the places competing for the title of the coldest in the northern hemisphere. The lowest temperature ever recorded in Oymyakon was -67.7 degrees Celsius. In Vekogen, the temperature is 69.8 degrees Celsius. Additionally, rainfall in this area is also quite scarce. Only the Kamchatka Peninsula has an average rainfall exceeds 500 millimeters. The harsh weather has driven up construction costs. Operation and maintenance of all infrastructure works, from homes and hospitals to roads and factories. Just keeping the city warm throughout the winter has accounted for a significant portion of the budget. This makes development projects less economically efficient. From an agricultural perspective, Siberia does not have favorable conditions to sustainably scale up food production. The soil in this area is primarily post-zone soil with a composition containing a mix of sand and gravel, causing a decrease in moisture and nutrients. In addition, this area is also covered by permafrost or remains waterlogged year-round, hindering cultivation. The farming season is short, lasting only about 2 to 3 months. Not suitable for cultivating long-term stable crops like wheat or corn. The rainfall is irregular and unevenly distributed. This also makes agriculture more dependent on technology, and investing capital is also not feasible in remote, isolated areas. This is completely opposite to the European part of Russian territory, where the climate is mild, the land is fertile and more suitable, with the development of agriculture, transportation, and urbanization. For example, the Black Earth region in western Russia is renowned for its fertile farmland. Therefore, Russians have no reason to leave their homeland for Siberia to reclaim land or establish a livelihood, especially in the western regions. There is still available land, and population overload isn't an issue yet, despite covering up to 76.6% of Russia's territory. However, the Siberia region accounts for only about 25.12% of the country's total population. The projected population of this area in 2024 is only about. The population here is 36,696,000 people with a relatively high population density. The population density is 2.8 people per square kilometer. Specifically, the Siberian Federal District is the most populous region. Novosibirsk is the most populous city in Siberia, and is the third most populous city in the country. This place is also considered one of the largest industrial centers in the country. For key industries such as aerospace, nuclear fuel, power generators, production zones, and generator sets, and other types of transmitters. Leading the way are the aerospace and nuclear fuel industries, generators, turbines, and hydroelectric power. Krasnoyarsk is the second most populous city in the district. With a population of 1,205,000, this is the sixth most populous city nationwide. A Russian writer once remarked that this is the most beautiful city. Siberia boasts many unique and stunning natural landscapes. The Ural Federal District is one of the most populous regions, with a population reaching 12,262,000 people. Accounts for 8.39% of the country's total population. The most prominent city is Yekaterinburg. Here are the natural English translations. This place is often called the third capital of Russia, because its economy ranks third in the world in terms of size. Culture, transportation, and tourism are three closely interconnected fields. That is the city of Chelyabinsk with a population of 1,177,000 people. Ranked 8th in population nationwide. This area is renowned for its thriving heavy industries. Notably, the metallurgy and military equipment manufacturing sector holds a significant position in the region. And finally, the lowest position belongs to Lien Chu District, Da Nang. Here are the natural English translations for the given Vietnamese text. Accounts for 5.38% of the country's total population. This area is also considered one of the least densely populated regions in Russia, when the population density is only 1 person per square kilometer. On the other hand, the western part of the country is a densely populated area, because it receives the majority of its investment capital from the government. Here are the natural English translations for the given Vietnamese phrases, and also the focal point for most of the key political institutions. Culture and education are closely intertwined, complementing and supporting each other in the process of societal development. The estimated population of these countries is 109,384,000 people, living on a territory spanning nearly 4 million square kilometers. Therefore, the population density in the western region. The population density is 27.4 people per square kilometer. The population in this area is unevenly distributed. Notably, the capital city of Moscow is home to 13,150,000 people. Here are the two translation options as requested. Not only is it the most populous city in the country, but it is also considered the most populous urban area in Europe. This is the headquarters of the Russian government, where state power is centralized. This city boasts many famous architectural landmarks, recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Additionally, there is the city of St. Petersburg, has the second largest population in the country, with a total of 5,598,000 people. Here was once the capital of the former Russian Empire, and this has also been a strategically vital seaport throughout history. Overall, the disparity in population growth among regions remains a significant concern. There is a clear difference between the two regions of the country. This is the consequence of long-term decisions heavily influenced by political motives. With the distinct social characteristics of the Siberian region, throughout modern history, the Russian state, no effective strategy has been devised to address this yet. First, Russia is a country with a political model characterized by extreme centralization of power. From the era of the Tsars, through the Soviet period, to today's Russian Federation, the center of power has always been in Moscow or St. Petersburg, and all critical decisions are aimed at meeting needs and safeguarding interests and the development of the Russian European territory. Prioritizing the development of the Western region stems not only from its advantageous geography of proximity to Europe. Russia is seeking trade partners, expanding political influence, and gaining access to new technology sources. Not only that, but this area also boasts a dense population and a highly skilled workforce of intellectuals and technical laborers. And this is also the hub of the consumer market. The consequence is that Siberia, despite its vast area and abundant resources, primarily regarded as just a hinterland for resource exploitation, but not a place to build a sustainable and developed society. Russia's budget allocation and public investment policies. This imbalance is becoming increasingly pronounced. Most large-scale infrastructure projects and universities, research institutes, industrial zones, and iconic architectural structures. Everything is concentrated in the West, where the population density is high and political influence is significant. Localities in Siberia frequently have to face, due to a lack of budget and high-quality human resources, and lacking internal motivation for growth. Although the government still maintains some railway lines, the system has not truly flourished to meet the people's transportation needs. Here, there is a military base and a resource mine. These projects primarily serve exploitation purposes, or falls under security control measures rather than being a fixed or mandatory requirement. When the central government lacks a cohesive and comprehensive development strategy, for Siberia, they only see it as a giant warehouse full of resources. This land will surely become desolate, with no trace of human society left. Another crucial factor is the demographic characteristics of the Siberian region. There was neither sufficient quantity nor stability to allow for formation. Sustainable urban communities. Currently, Russians are the most populous ethnic group in the region. And the Russians, likely making up about 86.2%. Additionally, this is also home to many indigenous ethnic minority communities. The Buryat people use Mongolian as their primary language. With about 500,000 people, this is the largest group, primarily residing in the Republic of Buryatia. Other notable groups include the Yakuts, Tuvans, and Khakas, the Altai, Nenets, Ivan, Henty, and Chukchi peoples. These ethnic groups have a traditional way of life, deeply connected to nature, and often struggle to adapt to the industrial model. The process of urbanization following the Western model. Unlike the Western region, which boasts large urban areas, despite its long-standing cultural heritage, Siberia lacks an intellectual class. The urban middle class plays a crucial role in leading and shaping society. The small, scattered, and constantly shifting population makes the work very challenging. Particularly, young people tend to leave this region to reach major cities like Moscow or Novosibirsk, or study and work abroad, leading to the phenomenon of the brain drain situation has reached an alarming level. According to domestic population statistics on migration trends, during its development, Russia emphasized that the population of Siberia. From 1990 to 2010, the population of Vietnam decreased by 2 million people. In the near future, migration trends may ease somewhat. This rate is expected to drop to 9% by 2025 due to a significant decline in the youth population. When there is a shortage of high-quality human resources, investors will face many challenges in their production and business operations. And foreign investors are not keen on this region either, leading to a vicious cycle. The vicious cycle of population decline leads to reduced investment and hinders development. The Russian central government has also shown certain laxity in this matter. The excessive development of remote areas has caused Siberia many difficulties. With its ethnic diversity and vast geographical expanse, the formation of localized power centers should not be encouraged. Any effort towards self-reliance or independent development can be considered a threat to territorial integrity or the central government's authority. In summary, from a political and social perspective, Russia's abandonment of the Eastern Territory is a concerning action. This is the consequence of a centralized state model coupled with an unbalanced investment policy. And the population has an unstable nature. First, the western region of Russia, particularly the area from Moscow to St. Petersburg. The Volga region has long been a vital economic and administrative center of the country. This area is home to the majority of the Russian population and also features a dense urban system. The transportation system and infrastructure services are continually being upgraded and improved. This area has a diverse economy, with the processing industry accounting for a significant proportion. High-tech industries, financial services, education, and public administration. Financial hubs like Moscow not only play a role in coordinating the national economy but also have widespread global influence across various fields. Here, industrial zones, major urban areas, and university systems are concentrated for development. Research and develop a closed-loop value chain to meet the demands of both domestic and export markets. On the other hand, Siberia, stretching from the Ural Mountains to the Far East, has an economic structure primarily reliant on natural resource extraction. The passage mainly focuses on key economic sectors such as oil and gas extraction, coal mining, non-ferrous metals, timber, and hydropower. This region contributes significantly to the nation's GDP through energy and mineral exports. Unlike the West, Siberia lacks deep processing industries and has underdeveloped industrial infrastructure. The incomplete value chain causes most of the added value to flow to Vietnam. The notable point is that the mineral resources here are extremely abundant, accounting for up to 85% of Russia's palladium and platinum reserves. Russia accounts for 80% of coal and molybdenum production, 71% of nickel, 89% of oil, 95% of natural gas, 69% of copper, 44% of silver, and 40% of gold. And it accounts for 60% of the country's total peat reserves. According to geologists, this vast resource has yet to be fully exploited. This vast resource has yet to be fully utilized. To transport them to other locations conveniently, there are two important transport routes in the area. The first is the Drut-Jabar oil pipeline, which was put into operation in 1964 with a length of approximately 4,000 kilometers. This is one of the longest oil pipelines in the world. The journey begins in the city of Untapped in the Republic of Tatarstan, then passes through various locations in Ukraine and Belarus, Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Germany. The name Drut-Jabar symbolizes friendship, reflecting the bond of camaraderie that this pipeline has fostered. Between the Soviet Union and Eastern European countries, the relationship was strengthened by a stable and reliable oil supply. This is considered the primary and most crucial oil transport route from Russia and Kazakhstan to Europe. But since Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022, most of these routes have virtually ceased operations. Additionally, there is the Sakhalin-Khabarovsk-Vladivostok gas pipeline, spanning 1,822 kilometers in length, owned by the Gazprom Corporation. It transports fuel from Sakhalin Island to densely populated areas and chemical industrial zones in the Far East. This is also a crucial international gas export route, supplying this energy source to East Asian countries such as China, South Korea, and Japan. In addition, it is necessary to mention infrastructure development, particularly in the western region with its dense transportation network, including highways. The subway system, high-speed railways, and international airports in Siberia are quite limited, with only a few major routes such as the Trans-Siberian Railway available. At 9,289 kilometers long, this is the world's longest railway, stretching from Moscow in the west to Vladivostok in the east. By 2021, expansion projects were still underway, including the construction of new connecting routes with Russia's neighboring countries. Mongolia, China, and North Korea are the countries mentioned. Additionally, there have been proposals and negotiations to extend the network all the way to Japan's Sakhalin Island and Japan. Next is the 4,324-kilometer Baikal-Amur line, which runs parallel to the Trans-Siberian Railway but lies farther to the north. The journey begins in the town of Tayset in Ikit province and ends at the town of Sovik-Yagavin, with the total projected cost for the project reaching up to $14 billion. This cable section is constructed using special, ultra-durable cables, as most of the line runs over permafrost. Due to the complexity of the route, the then Soviet General Secretary, Leonid Brezhnev, called it the construction project of the century. Currently, only the 1,469-kilometer railway line from Tayset to Taximo in the western region is electrified. Regarding the road system, the most prominent feature is the extensive federal highway network stretching from the west coast to the east coast, seamlessly connecting coastal regions. Support for freight transportation and passenger transport services. Generally, most of this country's key railway and road routes are concentrated in the southern region, running along areas near the border with China. Since the northern region is primarily mountainous terrain, it is not favorable for transportation development. Another option for transportation is traveling by water. The Northern Sea Route runs through the Arctic Ocean along the northern coast of Siberia. Usually, it only operates in the summer or when ice needs to be broken. The Muscovy government is ramping up investments to transform this route into an international trade corridor, replacing the Suez Canal. Overall, regional transportation still faces many limitations due to the vast terrain and harsh climate. The domestic routes currently only connect to the southern region of the country. The northern region still has no national highway passing through. Moreover, in winter, snow and blizzards often paralyze traffic. In the summer, the roads become difficult to travel due to flooding and swamps. This not only affects people's lives but also increases the cost of transporting goods. The investment in developing the area has become unprofitable. In summary, there is a clear disparity between the economies of Siberia and the Orthodox Western Russia region. In terms of structure, development level, participation in the value chain, and exploitation potential. The Western region stands out for its balanced development, modern infrastructure, and rapid urbanization. Conversely, Siberia primarily focuses on resource extraction, remains relatively underdeveloped, and faces significant limitations in social infrastructure. In the current context, the world is undergoing significant geopolitical shifts, climate change, and the need for population redistribution to foster economic development. Siberia is increasingly holding a strategically vital position in the long-term development policies of the Russian Federation. The future of Siberia depends on many factors, with population playing a pivotal role. With an extremely sparse population density, the Russian government recognizes the need to develop this region sustainably. An effective population attraction strategy needs to be developed. Recently, several new policies have been implemented, including the Far East Hectare Program, which aims to provide 1 hectare of land free of charge in the Far East region. Both Russian citizens and foreigners are allowed to live here if they have resided continuously for 5 years. However, only Russian citizens have the right to own land. According to estimates, the program attracted approximately 95,000 participants, with a total of 65,000 hectares of land allocated for use. Of which, 20% of the land area has been confirmed as real estate or under long-term lease contracts. At the same time, the local authorities received approximately 13,000 new registration applications. The government is also implementing various measures such as tax deferrals and financial support for both businesses and citizens, especially those who are willing to relocate and commit long-term to working in this local area. Some provinces such as Novosibirsk, Irkutsk, or Krasnoyarsk are being oriented to develop into new economic growth centers. With a larger population size, this area will serve as a springboard to drive the development of neighboring regions. Moreover, the development of transportation infrastructure and technical systems is considered an absolutely essential foundation that cannot be overlooked. If you want to tap into the vast potential of Siberia, in recent years, Russia has spent billions of dollars to upgrade the Trans-Siberian Railway and the route near Baikal-Amur. 2 vital transportation routes connect Russia's European region with the Far East and Asian countries. The upgrade of these routes not only facilitates faster and more efficient goods transportation but also creates new opportunities to attract investment in industrial, processing, and logistics services along the Siberian Economic Corridor. At the same time, domestic port, airport, and highway construction projects are also being implemented to reduce the geographical isolation of this region and facilitate better connectivity with the world. At the same time, it must be acknowledged that Siberia still holds a strategically important position economically. This is of utmost importance to Russia. Not only is this land rich in energy, mineral, and forestry resources, but it also serves as a strategic gateway connecting to Russia for the Asia-Pacific regional market. In the context of Western-imposed economic sanctions and the global supply chain shifting toward Asia, the development of Siberia is becoming a focal point in Russia's eastern strategy. For example, the 3,968-kilometer-long Power of Siberia gas pipeline is operated by the Gazprom Corporation to transport natural gas from Yakutia to China. Specifically, in May 2014, the 2 countries signed a $400 billion, 30-year natural gas supply agreement. According to 2020 estimates, China imported 4.1 billion cubic meters of natural gas from Russia via pipeline. After completing the entire pipeline in December 2024, Gazprom announced information about the gas flow volume. Every day, PengEnergy has exceeded the contractual obligations in China. Overall, this pipeline plays a crucial role in the short-term energy security of both countries. For the Beijing government, this helps diversify the supply of natural gas and reduces reliance on coal. Siberia is not only rich in resources but is also expected to become a testing ground for sustainable development models and the application of advanced technologies. Thanks to its vast area and unique climate conditions, this place has become an ideal region for implementing new energy solutions. Renewable energy such as wind and solar power in sparsely populated areas or off-grid locations. Some cities like Tomsk or Krasnoyarsk have begun building innovation clusters. The combination of university potential, research infrastructure, and startup support policies. Siberia has the potential to become the world's leading energy and raw materials hub in the future. As a result, it can significantly narrow the development gap with the Western region and contribute more actively to the country's economic growth. However, the development of Siberia still faces numerous challenges. The harsh natural conditions and remote geographical distance from the political center. The risk of brain drain as young people leave this region is growing increasingly severe, leading to a host of other pressing issues. Moreover, many localities still lack sufficient electricity, clean water, along with essential healthcare and education systems. Life became harder for the people, reducing its appeal to those who wanted to settle there. Therefore, to turn these potentials into reality, Russia needs to develop and implement long-term policies consistently, while enhancing the autonomy of local authorities. In planning and investment attraction efforts, here are the main reasons why Russia has neglected the vast wilderness of Siberia. If you want us to work on any specific topic, please comment below. Hello everyone, and see you all in the upcoming videos.